The September 13th, 2017 Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting is now convened. Pam, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Platt?
Present.
Commissioner Gambetti?
Present.
Commissioner Moreland Capuya?
Here.
Commissioner Myers?
Here.
Chair Cruz?
Here. Thank you. All right. First up, we'll have commissioner reports. So, Commissioner Moreland Capuya, would you like to start? No?
To start, I actually just got back from Africa, where my family and I have a healthcare clinic that we built. And maybe at some other point in time, we'll have an opportunity to talk about that. But that's the extent of the work that I've done thus far, which is myriad and sundry. It's a lot, but we won't take up the time here. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Myers?
Sure. I'm going to go back to August since I missed August meeting. August 2nd, I attended the Mortensen Appreciation Night, and then on the 4th, the groundbreaking for the Convention Center Headquarters Hotel and Parking Garage. I've been attending the LMCOC meetings for Multnomah County Courthouse and the Health Department Headquarters, which is one of our projects, as well as been attending those to make sure that our workforce goals and contracting goals are met. And also been attending the steering committee for the Broadway corridor.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Gambetti?
I attended the Northeast CDI Oversight Committee meeting on August 23rd.
Thank you. Commissioner Platt?
As did I.
Okay, thank you. And for my part, I attended that meeting as well as a number of other meetings in my new role as chair, and also the Hispanic Heritage Evening Gala with the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber. And Pam, I will give you a more lengthy list later.
Okay,
So, thank you. All right, so next up we have the meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from last month? Yes. Oh, excuse me, pardon me. Executive Director report. Apologize.
Thank you, Chair Cruz,
Moving too
Commissioners. Good afternoon. So we're certainly back in the swing of fall activities, so quite a bit to report. So I was also there on August 23rd for the Northeast Community Development Oversight Committee. Appreciated the support and attendance of our board members. So a good opportunity to engage on some of the concerns that we heard raised here on August 9th. We subsequently had a subcommittee meeting. That was what the decision was from that meeting, to talk about the interstate urban renewal area expansion. It met last night, and they dug into some of the options, proposed amendment, whether or not to include the Hill Block within the urban renewal area, and the collaborative project between Legacy Health and the City of Portland and Prosper Portland and community involvement. So the subcommittee is going to reconvene and develop key considerations in its decision, and then we'll have a report back in a more formal way to the board next month. We do have a opportunity to talk to the Northeast Housing Oversight Committee tomorrow evening. That's the oversight committee that the Housing Bureau sponsors, and so we'll be talking to them as well, since they also have an interest in whether it gets put into the interstate urban renewal area. I attended the Jade International Night Market at the Jade District on Saturday, August 26th, which is a fantastic community event. We're proud to have been a supporter of that event and of the Jade District since its inception. I also attended Pitch Black, which is an annual event for Black entrepreneurs that's put on by former Prosper Portland staff member Stephen Green. That was held on August 30th. Lindsay Murphy with Fab Lab won this year. And she pitched a company that makes videos of intensive DIY science experiments. They're fantastic. I particularly encourage anyone with young children to check it out. It really makes children engaged in STEM in a really interesting way. So fantastic local entrepreneur who had been at White and Kennedy and now is a full-time entrepreneur. So then I also attended the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce Hispanic Heritage Celebration Dinner on September 7th, and spoke last Friday at the Leach Botanical Gardens thank you appreciation event for some of the key founders. It was a great opportunity to talk about why we've invested $2 million of our resources from the Lentz urban renewal area there, and to talk about why this garden is so important as a real gem within East Portland. There's an opportunity to invest yourself, so look for the crowdfunding campaign that will be launched shortly, and you can find out more on their website. Also had an opportunity to attend the honoring powwow at NEA Family Center and the Mercado's Taste of Latin America last Saturday, September 9th. These are wonderful family-friendly events and just a great opportunity to support close partners that we work with. On a sadder note, I attended the memorial for Elemental Technologies founder Sam Blackman on September 10th. His death is a truly staggering loss for our city. He embodied what it means to be a civic leader, and we will miss him greatly. What was clear within the memorial service is that it's all of our responsibilities now to basically hold the torch and continue his legacy of supporting the greater good in whatever way possible. So our thoughts are with his family and his entire company. This morning, I spoke at the groundbreaking of Rose Community Development's new project in Lentz. This is Woody Guthrie, and the reason it's called that is because Woody Guthrie actually lived in Lentz for some time period, so it acknowledges that great part of their history. It's a 64-unit project. It is mixed income, so a portion of it is restricted to 30% median family income and other at 80% and 100%. It's really family focused, so they have a program for pregnant women and families to support the first 1,000 days of life. We're really proud to support this project. We have $9 million in it, and that is the fourth groundbreaking of our projects that we've supported in Lentz Town Center. So those being Lentz Common, the Asian Health and Service Center, and Oliver Station, and then this final one with Woody Guthrie. So the $110 million that's been invested in Lentz is really catalytic, and 37 million of those come from Prosper Portland. So it's great to see that moving forward. And finally, just want to share that staff and leadership members of Prosper Portland have continued to meet regularly with VOS. We are negotiating on a letter of intent for the 240 North Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard site, and the goal is to be able to complete that by the end of this month. So going forward, lots happening. Prosper Portland is a proud partner of Best Fest, Oregon's best premier clean technology innovation conference, which is tomorrow. It's a full day showcase of some of the most cutting edge ideas and technologies disrupting climate change today. So you can also find more about that on Oregon Best's website. I want to acknowledge Pam Neal, who is a driving force in the success of that program, and a lot of the good work in helping local entrepreneurs connect to the supply chain and to other investors. Prosper Portland is currently accepting applications for participation on a new advisory body that we are calling the Council for Racial and Economic Equity. We are accepting applications and nominations until September 15th. So the CRE, or Council for Racial and Economic Equity, is responsible for overseeing implementation of Prosper Portland's equity policy, and you can find out more on our website at prosperportland.us. I also encourage anyone interested in participating in the Oregon Small Business Fair workshop to do so. It's occurring this Saturday, September 16th. This will be an opportunity to learn about access to capital, legal basics, business planning, taxes, and contracting. You can find out more at businessfair.com, smallbusinessfair.com. Also on September 16th, I'll be attending the Self-Enhancement Inc. Soul of the City event, along with other board members and city staff. There's still time to invest in the Cully Park project. Prosper Portland is partnering with Verde and Portland Parks and Rec on this project that will transform what was a former landfill into a new 25-acre park within one of Portland's most diverse park-deprived neighborhoods. So you can go to letusbuildcullypark.org for information and to donate. I want to invite everyone to attend the Division Midway Festival of Nations multicultural event happening on September 17th. You can find out more at divisionmidwayalliance.org or on our website. I'll be attending and speaking at the ground opening of Portland State's new Carl Miller Center on September 19th. We put in $2 million into that project and have a long partnership with Portland State University supporting that. We'll also be attending Greater Portland Inc.'s annual Economic Summit on September 21st, the Latino Network's Noche Bella on Saturday, September 22nd. And finally, a reminder that we have $1.25 million that's currently available for community livability projects across our urban renewal areas. So please look on our website for more information about those resources to support nonprofits who have capital needs that might be community serving. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Lots of great work. All right, so next item is the meeting minutes for August 9th, I believe. So if everyone's had a chance to review those, are there any comments, changes? If not, then I would accept a motion to approve in a second. Motion to approve. Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, next we have several folks here for public comment. And I'll just read through them. We have two groups or two sets of people. First, we have Doug Peterson. I'm sorry, I can't quite read this. It looks like Michael Vanderveer, excuse me, Robert Faith, and Jill Hymanson, excuse me. Apologies if I butchered that. If you'd like to come forward as a group, that would be great. Great, thank you.
Sure, okay. I'm sorry, misunderstood.
Hi, sorry.
Okay, great, thank you, sir.
Maybe yes.
Thank you and welcome. We've invited all four of you up to speak, so you could allocate your time to one person, or if you each want to take 3 minutes, that would be great.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. Hi, my name is Jill Hymanson. I'm the lobbyist for Peterson's Convenience Store. I want to thank you for allowing us to testify today. Really appreciate it. Mr. Cruz, actually, I watched your video that was recently posted on YouTube about how you feel like you really like how there's a sense of community and neighborliness that has marked Portland since your childhood. And Peterson's Convenience Store is one of these stores that has been around for over 3 decades. And we have deep community roots, and we really are, I mean, everybody, we have actually all these comments that you can see here. These are from our customers. We just took comments at one of the stores, and we already have over 3,000.
Over 3,000.
Yeah, over 3, and
Still coming in.
yeah, and they're still coming in. And so anyway, I'd like to just read a few of the comments for you guys because there's a lot there. Peterson's is a staple of Portland. It's been here as long as I can remember, and that's important in these times of change. Another one, long-term customer. Peterson's is a mainstay of Old Portland. People keep moving here and taking the things we love. Please stop. Another one, I would hate to see this store go because it's a Portland landmark. And finally, we already have enough boutiques. Plus, where am I supposed to get snacks at 2 in the morning? There's lots of other good ones, lots of support. People really love the store. And so really what we're hoping today is to start a dialogue with you guys about how we can possibly stay in the store and stay open as long, be as least disruptive to the employees of the store as possible. You know, we've been in the same location for over 3 decades, and, you know, one area of concern, it seems like Prosper Portland has, you know, just the way that they worded the letter notifying us that you wanted us to leave, that it was directly, like, aimed at our store. For example, one of the requirements was that you can only have 3 stores, and we have 4. Another one of the requirements is that we're not allowed to sell alcohol there. Which really it's only a small portion of our business, maybe 10%. But you know, we have tourists and people that rely on that. And the reason it was given to us is because they said they was going to compete with area restaurants. And so I did my little informal survey to just ask the local bars and restaurants around the area what they thought about that. And they were kind of as perplexed as I was about the reasoning there. So that's one of the reasons we want to start a dialogue with you guys, just so we can, come to, maybe we can understand what's going on a little better, and we can work with you guys to make the whole project a success. And then finally, one of the other things is that we understand that it's women in the project's aimed at bringing in women and minority businesses, and we're totally supportive of women and minorities. And obviously, I'm a woman, and we have LGBT women, minorities, disabled people. We have all sorts of different populations that work for us. But anyway, we just hope that you guys can understand that we have employees that we want to protect too, and we want to just remain a part of the community. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Doug Peterson. I own Peterson's, and we've been there, it'll be 33 years, December 1st. And it's an icon, landmark location. We're just like Powell's and Voodoo Donuts and Starbucks. Everybody knows us in downtown Portland. And as you can see, if you look through just the comments and all the petitions that people have signed, they're concerned that we're not given some type of opportunity to come back. And I really feel that we should have a right now to know that we can be in that building in the remodel. And I appreciate the remodel. That's something that's been due and is very good. I have about 28 employees, long-term employees. Michael, my manager there, as Michael Vanderveer, has been there for over 25 years. I have many others that are in the 10-year or more range. And like Jill said, employees of all stripes, LGBT, handicapped, older women, older men, and I value my employees and want to hold on to them as much as possible. And I'm saying that I sure would like to please have you consider that Peterson's is in the middle of the block in this building, and the major construction is on the ends. The elevators and the new elevators on two corners and the storefronts on the other two corners, but not near as much as in the middle of the block. The Max Stop is going to stay open. We sell the IHOP cards and add value to it, and especially for tourists, and we're open all hours, max runs. And I think it's important that we should be able to stay there during the construction. I just think there's opportunity there, and it also makes for a safer stop. Max is going to be there, and just fencing around the rest of it, it's going to attract all kinds of hangers-on and everything, and if we're there operating, it makes a much more safer environment. The thing about too is Starbucks down at Pioneer Square, on the major remodel of Pioneer Square, they were able to be maintained open all the hours. They had fencing around every which way, but Starbucks was open. And I think that should be considered for us. And I think we serve the community, and we definitely want to be able to come back. And I need some certainty because I'm afraid I'll start losing some of my good employees. And I don't want to do that because they're all good employees. Thank you. Go ahead, Michael. Michael's the manager there.
Hi there, my name is Michael Vanderveer. December 3rd, 1992, I started working for this gentleman here. We've had our ups and downs as me as an employee, he's the owner. So we've had our good, bad points, but the point being this, the man's always been fair. So on December 4th, 2017, I start my 26th year there. But that set aside, I'd like to read you some names. My name, Michael Vanderveer, Robert Faith, Angela Bruce, David Beller, Claudia Brubaker, John McElvey, Aaron Hardige, Sean Eldon, Gabriel Alton Rose, Carlos Flores, Eric Jansen, Anthony Dean, Jamie Sheridan, Shaniqua Vanderpool, Charles Wilcoxon, Jacob Wobbler, Shaquila Watson, Kelly Kaufman, Mark Stanish, Joe Cover, Brent Campbell, Joel Foles, Perry Anderson, John Conway, Mary Luce, Elizabeth Barrow, Gino Helene. Besides the owner, these are the people that work for this very small and very vital company. I'm looking at your sign here, and it says Prosper Portland. How can you not prosper when people who have to make a living to pay for their rent, their food, their student loans? We have several employees right now, they're going to Portland State. Some of them had preferred to work for us because they can stay downtown, rent a low-income apartment or something that's not very expensive, or share it with someone, and they can go to school to further their education. So again, your name, Prosper Portland. How do we prosper if you shut us down for 10, 11 months?
Hi, I'm Robert Faith. I'm one of those over 10-year employees. I was a small business owner. I've served in the military for over 10 years. I've worked in the hotel industry for another 10 years. I've done a lot of other odd jobs from childhood to adulthood. I've always been a customer service kind of guy, and when we take on a new employee, we train them in customer service. It's more than just a Coke and a thing. We're involved. I get Christmas cards from some of my regular customers and birthday cards and other things. I've ordered pants for one of my customers online because he couldn't use a computer. It's more than just a store. The particular store at Morrison Street has as much income derived than any other two stores combined. That's why when you close this store, it affects the company so greatly. Now, we do hire diversely. We train. We've had people who are gone through convictions, and we've given them rehabilitation jobs, and I've made recommendations in writing and on the phone, and people have moved on to even better jobs. But they get good training, they get good work habits, they show flexible hours, and they're willing to give to the company, because this man I work for, he gives back. He gives vacation and sick time to his employees, even part-time when they need it. We work flexible hours for students and family members who need that time. The kind of jobs they have is sort of a walk-in, entry-level job, but you get more out of it than that because of who we are. It's a tight-knit group, it's family. So when you're, the boss, I could be in other places. I've made more money in other jobs, but I've never worked in a more important job, I swear to you. Because when the people I take under my wing, I make better. I contribute back to the society I grew up in. We give tourist information all the time. We help, we make the city better for people visiting because we give them that input and conversation they need to find. And we're open late at night. We're open early in the morning. Every hotel knows where to send their customers to us. We're that kind of company. Now, you're going to remodel this building. If it's a matter of how the store looks and on that particular block, we could upgrade to almost like a hotel a hotel kind of gift shop kind of environment. You saw a picture of our 4th Avenue store. We're working, we want it to look better, but it's hard to invest in a building when we don't get a lease. We're month to month. How much money can you put in a thing for, to make it better? We worked without air conditioning every summer. It's a tough work environment, but our people like it there. They like their customer base, from people who work at the library, get off the train and go to Safeway. They stop at our store. The people who work at the Paramount Hotel at 2 in the morning, they get off shift at 11:30. They get on the light rail train by our store. We work for the community that works for everybody else. We help them to help others, and we help them directly. We're more important than than just one little store. It's a kind of like a mainstay of downtown, and everybody said it. I'm taking the 50 seconds he left. I know that. I apologize for that, but it's hard to emphasize, when I say I've worked at other jobs. I've made more money as a contractor than I do here. And I've got, a financial revenue streams other than this particular store, but I'll stay here. I'm an older guy. I'm willing to show up every day because of this guy, Doug Peterson, class act. And, if you don't know him, an employee who got critically injured stayed on salary for over a year until his benefits kicked in. Big car accident, couldn't work. He's waiting for disability. That kind of paperwork slow in coming, kept them on salary, stayed at home, rehabilitated. He's not coming back. He didn't come back with us, but he carried him, and that's him. That's why I work with that guy. And I mean that in my heart. I would, I could work at other places, but I choose not to because of, of the company I'm involved in now. And to close that store, it's like cutting off our right arm. And if we could stay there longer, get guaranteed to come back in, we'll lose at least 10 employees if we lose that store as a minimum. And that's, 10 more unemployment checks, 10 more people like scrambling. It will make a difference, and I mean that. In that particular store, as I said, twice the income of any other store we have. That's how important it is to us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any comments from commissioners? Questions? No? All right, well, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Oh, did you have, oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a comment? Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Thanks very much.
And if you don't like the Red Sox, I'm sorry. Did you want to steer somewhere else?
Okay, thank you. All right, we have another individual to speak, Stan Herman. Mr. Herman here? Great. Welcome.
My name's Stan Herman. I sent an email to your organization almost a month ago, trying to find a direction to go in. I'm the guy that has a couple acres of property on the Willamette River, trying to get some support for canoes and kayaks for kids, and a soccer field, and a place to put the restored 715, LCI 715. On the last page there, you'll see a picture of the ship that's in Swan Island right now, being restored. The veterans, they need a home for this ship as well. But I guess what I'm here for is to ask, I didn't get a comment or email return. I'm just wondering if I'm going down the right street or not. Looking for some support for a program like this where the property is debt-free. We're not asking for a ton of money. We can put a heck of a great community program together, again, for the kids. I kind of think it's going to be one of the greatest things since Oaks Park, but, kids can canoe up the Willamette River to Oaks Park or down to the Columbia River, and just didn't know if I'm in the right department or if I should go to Metro or the city council or whatever, so I'm looking for a little feedback on what I'm trying to propose and what I'm trying to do before I retire, okay? This building actually, you might have seen it on the news a few months ago. It was the big, huge warehouse fire underneath the Fremont Bridge. Mm-hmm. So it didn't get destroyed to the point to where we can't move forward with this project. We're actually at some point in time going to take down the ceiling and the walls and so forth as well. The EPA has control of the site right now, and as soon as they get done with their cleanup and so forth, we can move forward with the division of state lands and so forth. So I'm looking for a little advice to see if this is something I can talk to here and move forward with.
Thank you. All right, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure. It looks like you contacted Lisa Boif about this.
Yeah, I sent an email on the 16th, whatever that was.
Okay, well, we'll follow up with staff and
Okay.
see if we can connect you with the
I
right
don't want to waste
person.
anybody's time if I'm kind of like, I'm trying to give back to the community, but if this is the wrong, place to start the dialogue, I understand.
Okay,
All right,
all right, thank you very much.
thanks.
Okay, that's all the public testimony we have for today, I believe. So next up, we have a consent agenda item. This is item number 6. It's report 17-38, resolution 7252, authorizing amendments to a grant within the Portland Economic Investment Corporation, with the Portland Economic Investment Corporation, and an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County for additional investment in the Inclusive Startup Fund. So would anyone like to discuss this, or can we go ahead and treat it as an agenda item? Any objections to treating this as a consent agenda item? No? Okay. All right, all those in favor of resolution 7252?
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimous, I believe? Okay, no?
No, I'm sorry, I was a sidebar conversation,
Oh.
so, but luckily I pre-read, so
Okay.
yes, aye.
Oh, all right, okay. Thanks. All right, great. Okay, next item is number 7. This is report 17-39, resolution 7253, involving a recommendation to City Council amendments, of City Council amendments to the Portland Enterprise Zone policy and to amend and realign the Portland and East Portland Enterprise Zone boundaries. Andy Reid and Mr. Lee, welcome.
I'll go ahead and start this off.
Thank you.
Chair Cruz, member of the commission, Executive Director Kimberly Branham, thank you for allowing us to speak today. I'm just going to try to tee this off, but before I start, I first want to thank this guy right here. He has really taken really a one-dimensional tool and turned it into a multi-dimensional solution for, and you're going to hear more about this, to address building an equitable economy. And he has taken this with a great passion and vision. And so that's why we're here today. So I'm excited to have you guys hear from Andy. He's been talking to me about this for the last several years and he's leading the charge, and I want to thank him for his passion. It's a great organization. We have a lot of great folks like Andy, who's just very passionate. You know, in the economic development world, we use a lot of fancy words to describe economic development, but ultimately what it comes down to is trying to attract wealth and inject it into our local economy. So our traded sector strategies, cluster strategies, these are really ultimately about how do we attract wealth and inject it to our local economy. But the question is how. And Enterprise Zone really is our best tool, and it's a state-enabled tool program to attract wealth and inject it out in the local economy. But so that's part one, and we're going to talk about Enterprise Zone more in detail through Andy. But the second part is the economy also has shifted in ways that we've never, in a very unprecedented way, where the middle wage job has simply evaporated. Despite the incredible comeback from the recession and earning power now, we're in the top 10 city in the nation, poverty has also grown. And therefore, Kimberly Branham's leadership around our brand change and a name change, our mission change, the timing of this is very compelling because of the shift of our economic structure. And so we got these two going on. We have strategies around recruiting wealth, and then we got inequitable economy currently. And so the question is, how do we retool the best tools we got and repurpose them to address this growing concern of inequity? And so Andy's presentation is really about that. And with that, I'll hand it off to Andy.
Thank you, Bobby. Chair Cruz, Commissioners, Executive Director Branham, thank you for having us today. So the goal of this presentation is really to do two things. We're going to be giving you an Enterprise Zone program update, and then second, get into proposed policy and boundary changes. I manage the Enterprise Zone program on behalf of Prosper Portland and the City of Portland. And one of our main goals of this program is to increase the economic opportunity for all Portlanders, and particularly disadvantaged Portlanders, that through quality jobs that come with these companies that are growing in Portland or moving to Portland. And that's really why we're here. We have a chance to change our policy to double down on that, but also to amend the boundary so that we can influence more corporate cultural behavior as companies are making decisions to locate in the Portland area. So first, we're going to start off with a summary and an update of kind of where the program is and how it works. So this is a 5-year tax abatement program. It's investment, an abatement on new investment. It's not going to be on existing lands, building, or anything that's already on the tax rolls. The best way to describe this is if a company makes a $10 million investment. Let's say they buy a piece of machinery, that will trigger about $1 million of tax liability over a 5-year period. And that is what would receive the tax abatement. So it's only going to be the new investment. In other words, that savings is what comes of being part of the program. But in exchange for this, the company has agreed or will have agreed to local conditions, and they're going to require, we're going to require of them through state statute and a local policy through the City of Portland, things that they're going to give back to the community. And so this is one of the tools that we have that does both. It really incentivizes development and incentivizes investment in those traded sector businesses that we want to see grow. But it also has, as Bobby was mentioning, a community contribution component where they're going to be giving back to the city. So this is our current map. You'll see here, as we are going to talk a little bit later, you'll see that on this map, there are only a handful of tax lots in the Central East Side that are currently in the E-zone. We've been doing boundary amendments one at a time, 8 of them over the last 6 years. And Old Town Chinatown, you'll see that is not currently in the E-zone, so you'll see what the map looks like in a little bit. In terms of the program and who enrolls, this is really intended at the state level to attract traded sector businesses, the businesses that are bringing revenue into the city, into the state, with products, goods, and services going out of our city and region and state and internationally. So you can see that by far the combination of the food manufacturing and manufacturing businesses, that's the largest chunk of businesses that we have enrolled in the program. Approximately half of them are going to fit in that space. And this is really that the coveted middle wage jobs, the ones that don't require the bachelor's degrees and beyond. So that's why this is such an important tool for us, particularly for that industry. And you'll see that we have about 57 businesses that it ebbs and flows depending on the year as companies are entering and exiting the program. But that's our current head count at the moment, and it's dispersed throughout the enterprise zone maps from North Portland all the way to the border with Gresham. In terms of some of the benefits that come back to the community, again, we have that goal of increasing economic opportunity for all Portlanders, and particularly for our disadvantaged communities. And that is one of the things that comes out of the E-Zone is we've got a fund that is these E-Zone companies contribute to. And between 2014 and 18, we had $2.6 million go into essentially 4 areas. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those. First, in the neighborhood prosperity initiatives and Main Streets, we have neighborhood navigators. These are workforce development navigators that are community facing. Instead of waiting for somebody to come to a workforce center, we've seen a huge need to go into those communities, into the civic organizations, into the churches, into the areas of the city where people are hardworking and they're doing their thing, but they can't get into the workforce system. So our goal is to find ways to start aligning some of that community work with our workforce system. That's a big deal to us. We also fund some of the small business, micro enterprise business technical assistance, the a la carte things that we do in our small business technical assistance program, such as the legal clinic, credit repair for small businesses, again, focusing on our communities of color. Those kinds of things are super valuable, and the E-Zone is going into those kinds of programs right now. In terms of workforce training, Bridgetown Natural Foods and Lentz, they're starting an ESL training program on site with their employees. And we're using E-Zone funds to do those kinds of things. So it's an example of how some of the money is coming back to the community as one of the benefits that comes out of this. In terms of the direct impact from the companies themselves, about 4,000 jobs, 2,000 of them are new. The investment in 2015 from these companies, and this is only 35 companies reporting a couple of years ago. We're ramping up with more companies coming into the program. But they invested $167 million in capital investments. Additionally, they spent $92 million in local purchasing. And that's a big deal. So when you talk about the impacts on the economy, you're really seeing a significant amount of revenue that's coming into the traded sector money coming in, services and goods going out. And then last but not least is the wages and benefits. We have a significant dollar amount in terms of their average wages. They're making about $28 an hour on average at these companies, with another $11 an hour in benefits. So it's just a very strong tool for those middle wage jobs again. Some other things that come out of this is we've been able to negotiate other public benefit agreements with companies. For example, when we do boundary amendments or when we make policy changes. In 2015, we made a policy change to add components of childcare and transit support for companies that have significant tax savings over $1 million. And so these are 4 examples. We have Jaguar Land Rover. They started a tech incubator as part of this program. Instrument Marketing established a child care center for their employees down the street, which is amazing, I think. Diversity Hiring, Salt and Straw agreed to hire their employees at 50% of the demographics of City of Portland from communities of color instead of the 30%-ish that we're at. So going above and beyond. And then Daimler created a 6-level public transit support system for their employees, including fixing their bikes for their employees once a year, doing repairs, things like that. So we're having some really, really neat things come off of this in terms of additional public benefits. So to the policy changes, what we're looking to do this time around, and this is an iterative process, we've been making changes over time. A couple of things happening. One, the E-Zone is lockstep with the Oregon minimum wage increases right now. What we're seeing as a result of that is a number of the companies that are providing these middle wage jobs would not technically qualify in the future if they were to enroll again. And so we see that as a potential risk to us being able to continue the kind of influence that we want to do in our community. Additionally, right now the policy is written so that only 85% employees have to earn that minimum E-zone wage. The rest could be minimum wage under the state standards. We want to shift that to $15 an hour for all employees, or for the company to provide a benefit package that is equal to $20 an hour with wages and benefits combined. Procurement, we want to see a shift from not only just buying that $92 million locally in the city of Portland, we want to help target that again to East Portland, to communities of color, to our small businesses that we want to see grow. On the compliance side, right now we've got an all or none policy. Either you're in compliance or you're not. And we feel like there's a need for some space where if a company doesn't hire the 4 interns they say they're going to hire, they only hire 2, we don't have to disqualify them, but we can put a corrective action in place. That's an example of what shifting that might look like. We also have a current split between the Workforce Training and Business Development Fund. We're interested in removing that split. Administratively, it's pretty difficult to manage, but also we're seeing a lot of crossover as we've aligned our teams in economic development between the neighborhood and the traded sector teams. So now we're working together on a lot of things where we weren't before. We're seeing that a lot of the activity that we're doing, it could be either economic development or it could be workforce development. And so how do you really distinguish between the two? This would give us some flexibility to respond to needs as they're coming up and be more creative as that happens. And really the fourth, the biggest lift in my opinion, is adding new public benefits to our agreement, which gives us the impetus to start negotiating more benefit agreements, a la the ones I described in the previous slide, and really focusing on our jobs, partnerships, neighborhood, and prosperity as the 4 buckets, per se, of doing these kinds of agreements. So this is what we're looking to do. We want to bring in the Central East Side and Old Town Chinatown into the E-zones, again, with the public benefit agreements on top of those, and then also just doing some realignment of the 2 E-zones. The increase in the total acreage coming into the E-zones combined is about 6%, so it's not a massive lift. We're still way within our statutory requirements under the state law to do this. But those are the areas where we're looking at potential changes. And in terms of what we've done over the last 6 months, we've had some pretty significant community outreach, spent a lot of time with our community organizations, as well as individuals that cared about this. And we've gotten some really good feedback from them. It's been a really good process of getting into the community and having honest conversations about what happens when you shift a policy and what's the best way to go about doing that. Some of the things that they brought to us in particular were make sure you have an oversight committee. We have an oversight committee, and we've had one for a while, and we're going to continue that. We're looking at aligning that with our new Council for Racial and Economic Equity, and having that be the mechanism where we can keep coming back and checking in on the progress that we're making around our goals in the program. But second, leaning on the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative district managers and bringing them into the fold more around economic development. They've got their ears to the ground in ways that we don't. So that's an example of something that we took from the community that we're going to be bringing into this. Good alignment with WorkSource, make sure that's happening. A new emphasis on making sure that we're seeing investment in schools from our businesses. We're hearing that that's a really valuable thing, both from the business side, but also from the school side. And then last, see what we can do to incentivize and encourage investment in East Portland. In terms of the equity impact, the way that I really wanted to kind of think about this was when we looking at the goal of really increasing economic opportunity for all Portlanders, that's really the start. And now we have an opportunity to infuse more of this into city law and into our practices as economic development practitioners, where we're charged now as staff to do this work directly in connection with the tax abatement, which is pretty exciting to me. And really that's what we're going to get out of this if we're able to move forward with these amendments to the enterprise zone policy and to the boundaries. And that is creating more opportunities and more space for us to to be creative and innovative as we convene partners versus kind of acting as our regulator. And so that's really our goal here as we're wrapping up. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions before we have public testimony?
I just had a comment. First of all, thank you for the presentation. All efforts to align, all efforts to be consistent toward the goal of equity is really important. And I think this drive to codify that is very, very important. So thank you for that, because my understanding is these are recommendations that you're going to make to City Council. And it's consistent with not just the spirit, but the practice of what I believe we've been doing here. So codify, yes. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Willie?
So on the oversight committee, you said that who was going to serve in that role?
The Council for Racial and sorry, I don't have it memorized yet. The Council for Racial and Economic Equity.
Great.
So this is raising up the transition from the NED leadership group, Neighborhood Economic Development Leadership Group.
So one thing I would ask is that you look to expand that a little bit, not just have just Cree there, but also some of the industry experts on delivery on that committee. So, because it's not just about identifying deficiencies, but also about course correction and making sure that we aren't just creating more window dressing and we're actually being result-minded. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. I just wondered, the numbers look pretty good, and where we are now looks pretty good. I'm just wondering, what's the reception like amongst companies that you approach with this program?
Yeah, so to this point, I've had one company in 7 years that balked at it.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
And I don't think I wanted to work with them anyway. So. But as we've talked about these additional public benefits and kind of sat there with the business community and asked them what they thought about it, and they said, that's a really good way to do this. We care about our community. We want to do the right things. You need to be efficient when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make it easy for us to engage. So we're getting that feedback on the business side, but generally speaking, we've had great reception.
Great. And then in terms of the benefits that companies receive, I'm just curious what I know it's very difficult, depends very much on a case-by-case basis, but just ballpark, what kind of benefit would a company derive out of this program?
From the additional public benefit process, for example?
No,
or just from
I'm talking about more like the tax abatement.
tax savings?
To what extent are they benefiting? And I'm curious how those numbers play out.
Yeah, it's enough for them to
I know that
say-
it varies. I know that it really
Yeah.
varies a lot.
So for the typical industrial investment, again, on a $10 million investment, it's going to be $1 million in savings over 5 years. So about 10% of what they invest in capital investments is what their liability would be. So that's what they'd be saving.
Got it. So it's real money.
It's real money.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So I think maybe what we'll do is we'll go ahead and have, one person I believe will be speaking. Sarah Nelson from Jaguar Land Rover. This is before we vote, that is. Great. Thank you very much for coming.
No problem. Hi. Okay, so I work for Jaguar Land Rover, and my background is actually in workforce development. I came from Work Systems and before that PCC, so I have a long history in sort of workforce development, and then went to work for Jaguar Land Rover because of, I think they liked my background with public-private partnerships and sort of the idea that I could then bring forward to a sort of a company some of the opportunities that Portland has to offer. One of the reasons that they are here, chose to locate in Portland, was because of the E-zone. So coming on and having some expertise in that has helped a lot. As far as things that we've gained from being in partnership with PDC, we've had innovative programming such as our Entrepreneur in Residence program, which has provided small single-person or two-person entities the opportunity. We've really focused on trying to get women and otherwise underrepresented or unrepresented in tech, sole founders, a lot of minority founders. I think almost 100% across the board in that particular program have to fit a criteria that is aligned with what the goals of the Prosperity Initiative and Prosper Portland have to offer. Was PDC when we started, sorry. We have companies like Chroma that came on as an EIR and a partner, and what they benefit from, when we launched our technology incubator, our tech incubator, we have cohorts that come in on 6-month stints in the incubator, and then every 3 months we bring in a new cohort. So there's an overlap, and then there's an opportunity. We bring in mentors. We have companies that are in our EIR program. They are able to benefit from sort of the community of other startups. An EIR might be a sole founder or a small, very small. We have requirements that they are much smaller than some of our technology incubators or collaborators are, so that they can learn how to grow a business and sort of boots on the ground networking. And a lot of companies, I've heard recently that there's been a couple of spin-offs from startups building startups together. And a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of like, oh, and we could do this together. And so these companies will kind of cross-pollinate, keep their mission, still grow as an incubator because that's really in their big interest. But then a small spin-off could also benefit. And also the EIRs kind of get the opportunity to kind of commingle and come up with ideas and, you know, share frustrations and sort of work together. So it's kind of a melting pot in the entrepreneurial incubator space. As far as what we've also gotten that we've really benefited from has been training staff and participating in some of the technology. There was a series that Jared Weiner hosted on, oh my gosh. It was the Tech Pledge, but it was the unconscious bias trainings, and there's been a lot of value added to be able to bring that knowledge into the workplace. And then from our perspective, sometimes I feel like I'm the only one carrying this flag, but being able to take that knowledge back really does help the company. And so they come to me and they go, okay, what's going on for real? And, you know, they're very busy sort of answering big questions back to the UK. And so if I'm kind of constantly like poking at them like this, eventually they do actually listen. I was able to get them to agree to a internship program because of the Work on the Path program, also from the Tech Hire and the Tech Pledge, stuff like that. So we were able to work across the city, sort of best practices. And Jaguar Land Rover has a really phenomenal corporate program that's let out at the UK, where it's a true apprenticeship program, a tech apprenticeship, postgraduate, but it's very, very, very high level, and it isn't accessible to Portland locally. And it's like apprenticeship models overseas are very different than apprenticeship models locally. As far as our ability to participate in an internship program, being part of the PATH cohort and being part of the cross-learning across all the companies that the E-Zone has brought together has been really, really valuable. We do a lot with, we just hosted Reboot Northwest students. We host pretty regularly iUrban Teen. We've sponsored Lego Robotics. We do a lot with, we kind of try to keep it either STEM focused or automotive focused, but we also try to reach down into the K-12 system. And part of that's my personal passion with education and helping people in that space. We hired a bunch of people from a Code Oregon hiring event that we hosted at Jaguar Land Rover on site in partnership with Work Systems and PDC. So we try to, I'm sort of a squeaky wheel because of my partnership, but the benefits they see are really good staff, awareness of the tech community. I feel like people don't understand that there's a tech center here for Jaguar Land Rover, and we get a lot of like, oh, you work for the dealership. No, we don't. We answer directly to Gaten. We don't have anything to do with the cars. We have something to do with the development of the cars, but it's future reaching, it's future features. So we're connected with the car company, but we're a tech company, and so we sort of bridge this funny gap as an identity as an office. And so having partners like PDC and other Tech Hire, Tech Pledge, and Diversity Pledge companies has really helped us sort of be part of a network and be part of a community, I think. So, I don't know, the time ticker is not ticking, so.
That's okay.
Can I answer any questions?
You're our guest. Do you have any questions?
I
Comments?
actually did have one. When you were explaining, iUrban Teen is a really great program.
I love iUrban Teen.
Wonderful program. I thought about Benson High School and their automotive program and how there might be some opportunity to sort of start at a very early, because these are students who've already expressed their interest in wanting to do this and the possibility.
We don't actually work on cars.
No, I know you don't, but
Okay.
but the opportunity to learn that side of the business with folks who are already kind of interested and have demonstrated that interest. So I just don't know. You said K through 12 partnerships.
Yeah,
I don't know what type of
I would be happy to host a tour. Like, I mean, I coordinate a lot of the educational and workforce tours. We have we have a community lead that does sort of other community stuff. So we share if there's an interest in their students coming out and seeing our version of tearing apart a car, I'm sure we could set something up even twice a year or something.
And I'm not even a Benson High School graduate. I graduated from Jefferson, but
I think they have a phenomenal
It's
program.
about
so-
equity, right? So, but I think
agree.
that there's some opportunities there,
I think that's great.
seriously.
Yeah, and I'm really passionate about helping have them open their eyes. And the students, we hosted a group that came out of Metalaka, Alaska, that came to town, and they toured like OHSU and Microsoft and Boeing, and then they came to us and they were like, "Oh, this is great." We took them on a simulator, so it was a very different perspective, and I really enjoy them getting to meet people and hear about career tracks and how they got into tech or what the applicability is and how they can focus, like, why do you have to take that stupid math class anyway, stuff like that. So, the benefits, I'm very open to connecting with high school. We've had Irbantine and some other high school areas, local area high schools come in and like tour and, yeah, so.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thanks for your work on this, and thanks for your company's commitment to this, too. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Do we have any more questions for staff or comments before we vote? No? Okay. Thanks for your good work, Andy, Bobby. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. So I would accept a motion to approve resolution number 7253, amending the, thank you. And then the second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimous. Thanks very much. So next up, we have item 8, but before we go to item 8, Commissioner Gambetti will be reading a statement of interest.
Right. I'd just like to note an interest that my company has in one of the projects that's going to be discussed today. I'm a partner at Shields Oblitz Johnson, which serves as the owner representative in the 10th and Yam Hill project. We represent Portland Department of Transportation and indirectly Prosper Portland. I discussed the matter with General Counsel and of Prosper Portland and have been advised that there currently exists no conflict of interest. So I just want to disclose it in the interest of transparency and let everyone know about my involvement in that project, my firm's involvement in the project.
Great, thank you. All right, so the next item is item 8. This is an update. It's just an information item, but it's an update on Prosper Portland's affordable commercial tenanting initiatives. And Allison Wicks, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners, Executive Director Branham. My name is Allison Wicks. I'm a project coordinator here at Prosper Portland, and today I'll be providing a report on our recent activities related to commercial affordability and provide an update on some of our pilot efforts. As we prepare to move from this pilot phase into working on our broader framework and refining that framework, I'd like to ask the board on your input on any major issues or questions that you have around this commercial affordability question, and what questions you'd like to pose to an advisory committee that will be convening to help us further refine our affordable commercial framework. Small businesses and local businesses face a daunting retail environment today. Not only are they dealing with national trends in retailing, but local businesses are dealing with more competition from regional and national retailers. Across the city, we're seeing increasing rental rates. And as businesses are spending more time dealing with the impacts of the real estate market, that limits the amount of time they have to focus on their business. The City of Portland has seen increases in retail rents and decreases in vacancy rates and available small-scale retail locations. This has especially impacted Portland's neighborhood business districts, and in some cases has resulted in the displacement of small businesses which serve a critical role in our neighborhood economies. The purpose of our commercial affordability framework is to provide a comprehensive package of tools that support businesses to overcome these challenges. We see the package as having 3 pieces, one around access to space, one around technical assistance, and one around financial tools. The The goal with this program has the same goals as our strategic plan, so that's supporting businesses that are underrepresented within the business community. This includes women-owned businesses, businesses owned by communities of color, and businesses from low-income neighborhoods. Our broader goal is to maintain a mix of businesses across the city and ensure that underrepresented businesses have access to growing markets. So I've given you kind of an overview of the challenges that we're facing in our current retail environment within the city. I'm going to also share about our 4 current pilot projects, go into a little bit more detail around our framework, and then share some next steps. So we see commercial affordability as not just one thing. It's not just a reduced rent rate or free space, but we see it as a set of tools that fit into these 3 different buckets. So this is access to space, including publicly managed or privately managed, technical assistance, and financial support. We have 4 current pilot projects. So Alberta Commons in northeast Portland, the 10th and Yamhill Garage downtown, and then Lentz Commons and Oliver Station in Lentz Town Center. So each of these projects is piloting a different tool around access to space, and all of them include components from all 3 buckets of the affordable commercial framework. The mixed use zones bonus is a program that we're working with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability on. And we're still in discussions of what type of technical assistance or financial support would be included in that program. So in the Alberta Commons project, we're piloting a master lease with a private developer. It's a 10-year master lease for about 5,100 square feet of space. We're thinking that it'll be about 4 to 5 tenants that end up in this building, or in our space within the building. The technical assistance is 1 year of small business technical assistance from MISO. And then the financial support is around the rent rate and then also a tenant improvement package. Gina Woolley may be here already. Great. Oh, good. So Gina sits on the Retail Tenanting Advisory Committee for Alberta Commons, so she's going to share a little bit about the role that they've played in this process around the design of the building, the marketing strategy, and the selection of tenants. So you heard a little bit about the 10th and Yamhill Garage projects from our group earlier. In this case, for the affordable commercial tool is a master lease with a public partner, in this case, the Portland Bureau of Transportation. There is 21,000 square feet of ground floor space. We're still determining what type of technical assistance would be provided to tenants and the tenant improvement and space build out. The project manager of this project wanted me to mention that just a little bit about our process. So it sounds like unfortunately during construction, the fire life safety services will be disconnected during the renovation. So they are asking everyone to move out during construction. The process that we would run for re-tenanting would be similar to what we're doing for Alberta Commons and for the 2 Lentz projects, which is around a competitive process where everyone would be available to apply for the space. For Lentz Commons, this is a building that we are developing and owning ourselves, so that's the tool that we're piloting in this case. Half of the ground floor retail space we've reserved for a affordable commercial component, so that is kind of balancing out our business needs and our goals around affordable commercial space. This project and Oliver Station, which are both in Lentz, have shared an advisory committee that have helped give us advice around the tenanting of this space. Oliver Station, The tool that we're using in this case is a consent to let, which is giving us access to privately managed space. So Robert Gibson from Palindrome Communities is here, so he can speak a little bit more about this process and the leasing process that we're going through now. But the consent to let is a clause within the development agreement. And it has included a designated marketing period and initial below-market lease rate for 4,000 square feet within this larger building. Okay, so I'll go into a little more detail on our framework. So the first piece of the framework is access to space, so pursuing public and private opportunities to tenant spaces with qualified businesses. Through our pilots, we've been looking at qualified businesses and really thinking about who benefits from accessing spaces. So there's 4 components that we've been, four criteria that we've been looking at to qualify businesses. The first is our strategic plan alignment, so looking at underrepresented businesses. The business type, so making sure that the business itself is going to be a good fit in that neighborhood and that space. That they have a strong business plan and that they pass our financial review, and that also that they have adequate industry experience. So there's 3 tools that we're looking at within publicly managed space. That's the master lease tool, ownership, and then partnership with city bureaus. So for example, Portland Bureau of Transportation, and then also continue to explore a relationship with the Portland Housing Bureau to help with the ground floor space in affordable housing projects. Within privately managed space, in addition to consent to let, we're looking at this affordable commercial covenant within the mixed-use zones bonus. The mixed-use zones affordable commercial bonus is a tool we're looking at with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. It would be a floor area ratio bonus that's available to developers who enter into an agreement, for example, an affordable commercial covenant, with Prosper Portland to provide affordable commercial space to a qualified business. This program would likely have a larger impact on inner neighborhoods because this is where floor area ratio has value. Looking forward, we can see as neighborhoods develop and that floor area ratio becomes more valuable in outer neighborhoods, we could see this tool being used, moving further from the city center. It would only be in smaller projects. Any project over 20 units is going to trigger inclusionary zoning, so they would then have access to all of the floor area ratio on the table. So this would really be for projects with 19 units or less. And we see it as just one tool that would help qualified businesses access new construction spaces within sort of these hotter commercial markets. So the technical assistance piece is to provide culturally appropriate, easily accessible business technical assistance and mentorship. This would be to utilize our existing small business technical assistance partnership, the SBTAP program, but also exploring additional technical assistance options. So if that's helping give expertise on lease agreements, merchandising, design assistance, helping businesses understand what their tenants' rights, and then other issues that we uncover as we do more due diligence on this topic. The third and final piece is financial support. So that's working with lenders and Prosper Portland tools to help businesses achieve greater access to capital. So that's using our existing loan and grant programs, but also pursuing opportunities for new tools that would open up resources citywide. So for the rest of 2017 and 2018, we have bunch of things on the agenda. So evaluating our pilot projects. So thinking about lessons learned about our marketing, our tending process, our tenant improvement process, and just the overall operations of the pilots. Continuing to coordinate with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability on refinements to the mixed-use zones affordable commercial bonus. This will be going in front of Planning and Sustainability Council in October and then City Council in December or January. We want to conduct a market analysis and continue our outreach to small businesses and business districts to really ground truth our findings at this point and make sure that this is the right package of tools. 2018 is when we would plan to convene the Commercial Affordability Advisory Committee, and then also continue to explore new resources to fund these tools and securing resources to launch a broader technical assistance services. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and also just welcome, well, I guess we have 2 individuals here to give testimony, and then also I want to welcome questions and issues that you guys want us to pose to that overarching committee.
Do we have any questions or comments before we hear testimony? No? Okay. Well, okay. All right. So then I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and call up our speakers. Gina Woolley and Robert Gibson, I believe, are both here to speak. Welcome and thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Chair Cruz and Commissioners and Executive Director Branham, I'm here to, give you guys applause for this particular initiative. I think it's extremely important with all of the things you're trying to do around equity. Communities are not just housing, so we have so much emphasis on housing and trying to create more opportunities for affordable housing in our inner city neighborhoods, which have gentrified significantly in the last 20 years. But if you create affordable housing, but you don't allow for those neighborhood businesses to stay so that you maintain the diversity, we don't want homogeneous neighborhoods in our city. I mean, it doesn't sell our city. It's an issue. I just had lunch with Tamara Kennedy Hill from Travel Portland today, and she was talking about how they're focused on, trying to make people who are different feel good about coming to Portland. And if they come into our neighborhoods and they don't see diverse businesses and diverse people living in that neighborhood and a mix of cultures and opportunities and goods that would be appealing, then that's a problem for all of us, and it's a problem for the health and prosperity of our city. So I have been, as many of you may know, I actually am the developer for Vanport Square. Vanport Square was really an initial effort. It's in the block just north of Alberta Commons. It was Ray Leary and myself developed Vanport Square in 2007. Really we had probably 11 of our 16 buyers these were commercial condominiums. So it was a very forward-looking project, but the reason that we were trying to create condominiums is we had so many small and minority businesses who were extremely interested in owning their space because they were afraid they were going to end up out of the neighborhood. And quite frankly, all of the neighborhood businesses that were able to buy into this project, this was we had a lot of support from TIF and new market tax credits, and this project actually had a very low interest rate. And we structured this in a way that we were able to parcel out the debt. So we created a new model that has now been used many times to parcel out the debt to these small owners, because you can't recapture, with new markets, you can't recapture principal. So we had to have a creative solution to selling individual units. And essentially what that did is it allowed these people to stay in place. Of our owners, and we went straight into the downturn after we sold these units. None of our owners basically defaulted. They all were able to survive because of that very low financing. And now we have some of these units turning. We've had a couple of those units sell. to new small businesses because they've outgrown their space. They've relocated. So, but what it's done is it's provided a permanent, I mean, initially it anchored down businesses. We have a couple of our minority business owners who are now renting their space. So essentially they've created wealth. They've moved out, but they're now owners. They're renting their space to other minority owners, and they're renting it at a price that's probably not what you're going to be renting if you're in one of the new developments. So essentially, even the rented units in Vanport are probably $10 to $12 under what the going commercial market rate is. So what this does is it provides a vehicle to allow these small businesses to anchor down. So relative to Alberta Commons, we tried to take, myself as a committee member, I tried to take some lessons we learned about Vanport Square, because we work with these small business owners and we essentially wanted to make sure they were successful. You can't just create space and they will come and be successful when you're talking about businesses that basically in many cases have done nothing but sort of run in place. They've been a job for the owner. So if you want those businesses, and we do want some of those businesses to stay in neighborhoods, they create texture to the neighborhoods. So essentially, those people have never built out a space. They've never worked with an architect to design how they want their improvements to look. They don't merchandise well half the time, so you need literally to build in some of those supports in the program. And so what I'm pleased about is in talking with Prosper Portland staff, at least about Alberta Commons, and it appears that this is happening throughout the program, that there are those supports, providing some money so that these guys can sit down with an architect and create a schematic drawing of how they want to lay out their space. Because if you don't do that, you can't get good pricing on where your improvements are going. You really can't get anything. You don't even know how much money you need to borrow to get into that space. So what's been extremely, I think we've had a very active and robust advisory committee with Alberta Commons. We've challenged the way that the space was petitioned, laid out relative to Vanport Square. We wanted to create a continuum of small business owners that were reinforcing each other in those two blocks. So we gave input about reorienting how the space was. It was oriented to the side street as opposed to MLK, because MLK is extremely busy. So, don't have a bunch of small, skinny spaces that come in from MLK where you primarily get 40-mile-an-hour traffic and some pedestrians, but orient that traffic in, to the side street where you've got an active business that has an active street front, and, it creates an environment, a pleasing environment for local residents and pedestrians. So I think all of those supports that Allison talked about are really important to be part of a program like this. Again, I applaud you guys for piloting this. I think it's a critical part of your agenda if you want to begin to create equity and prosperity for the city as a whole.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Robert Gibson with Palindrome Communities. We're the developer of Oliver Station. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to share some of our thoughts about this program. I share Gina's excitement in this program, and it's as a for-profit developer of ground floor commercial in a redevelopment area, I can tell you how pleased I am to have this program as a spark to get businesses in before we've even completed construction. That's very rare to be able to pre-lease ground floor commercial space when you're still 6 months away from opening. So it has been a great tool to kind of spark the interest in the commercial space at Lentz. The Oliver Station project, just to give you just a brief background on it, it's 145 units, of which 126 are affordable, and there's 30,000 square feet of ground floor commercial. of the 30,000, 4,000 square feet is set aside under the Commercial Affordable Tenanting Program. The 4,000 square feet that we're setting aside under the program is just located west of 92nd Avenue between Foster and Woodstock. Of the 30,000 square feet in our project, we've pre-leased 18,000 square feet of the market rate space. So we're, I'm very pleased with the pre-leasing effort so far. We've worked with Prosper Portland staff on this program during the initial policy development phase in 2016, and we're actively involved in the initial tenant application review last August, or this recent August. Out of that, we have executed our first letter of intent for 15,000 square feet, and we are reviewing applications for the remaining 2,500 square feet and expect to have those under letter of intent before the end of the year. We've been very impressed with the level of interest. I think there's more interest in our project than we have space available, which is great news. We're really impressed with the level of commitment of small businesses who are willing to kind of take a leap of faith in the Lentz redevelopment area. There's not a lot of active business. We're basically demolishing an old business and a gas station, so there's not kind of a blank slate, so it takes a lot of vision. I kind of wanted to share some of the concerns or notes that Gina mentioned about businesses that don't really have experience in new construction. I've had the opportunity to tour 2 of the prospects in the raw space in the last month, and it's just an open floor plan. And there's initially they're very excited because it's a very impressive space. It's all new and very big, but then there's a little bit of a concern, which is, how am I going to do this? Where's the bathroom going to go? What can I do in the space? And so it's really important that we do have the tools available for design and construction and setting up that floor plan early on, and to help with the budgeting and setting up realistic expectations so that we can set up small businesses for success, because the toughest part is that initial startup phase. So I'm pleased to hear that there will be technical assistance and financial resources to kind of get over that first challenge. The one thing that would be helpful that came up in our budgeting was who's paying for the SDCs and for the commercial space. I don't know if there's an opportunity to partner with the city and perhaps get some kind of a waiver or adjustment for SDCs for the commercial affordability like we have for income restricted rental units. I think that would be another tool that we could use going forward. Along that, if there is some way to also have a reduction or a waiver of the construction excise tax like there is for affordable housing. I think those are 2 tools that could be implemented to help the program be more successful as we move forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions, comments? No?
Yeah, maybe this is a good time to ask it. So, gentrification has already come up in just about everyone's presentation, which is an obvious and real concern. And I think I agree, I think this is such a wonderful program in large part to try and to deal with those issues and the lack of affordability of commercial space. And I think targeting women and minority-owned businesses is great. I think to a certain extent it also depends. I think we can influence it in terms of how we tenant the spaces. And I struggle with the challenge of Prosper Portland investing in, say, now Lentz, trying to revitalize it while ensuring economic equity. And are we just accelerating the gentrification that's already hitting that neighborhood? And how do we fight that? And is there a way through this program, in part, not just in terms of who's owning the businesses, but what the business is? Do you see a way of helping to address that issue? Gina, I think your experience is particularly relevant.
I think it's a great question because, when you look at this tool and when you're master leasing for 10 years. So these businesses are going to be subsidized at highly subsidized rates for the marketplace. So, the screening and the understanding whether these businesses are capable of scaling up, doing enough feasibility in the front end, so you know that these businesses may be coming in at a certain level, but they're going to be able to grow. I mean, I think that's something that we, at least on Alberta Commons, remains to be seen, how that process goes and whether we're able to get the diverse businesses, because we've created some criteria for, I think it's the same criteria that they used in Lentz, of, putting some requirements on the business. So if you have a great idea and you want to go into business, you're not going to be, those are not the candidates you should be investing in, even because they're not ready yet. You should be providing them with other services, directing them to people like MISA where they can create a business plan and do other things. So working with your partners to get those people ready to be in the space. But the people who are going in these spaces should minimally be running their business for some period of time. It could be out of their house, but they need to have some experience running their business. I think when it comes to the long-term affordability, that you guys are going to have to think about how you build that into your lending programs, just like the housing, affordable housing does. Is there a way to keep some subsidy in the deal for some of these commercial spaces? Because improvement gentrifies an area. And what I always say, which is often controversial, is some gentrification is good for areas that are underdeveloped, because if you don't diversify the economic climate in that community, gentrification to me just means that you're bringing in new people and new money and stuff like that. But you can't do that, you can't diversify in a way that totally pushes everybody else out. You have to maintain balance, and that balance is, the public sector really has a large responsibility. Agencies like Prosper Portland, in my opinion, have a large responsibility to try to create those footprints with private owners who want to play, where you essentially maintain some of these commercial spaces, you maintain places in the community long-term, over a longer period of time than the 10-year master lease, where you're not going to have to dump more money back in and write it down again, when you get to the 10-year mark. So, and the only other thing I can think about is there's several ideas floating around. There are communities like Denver that are using the land banking model, with CDCs to actually not only do housing, but to do commercial space. So, I don't know enough about that, but I'm very interested in talking to some of the practitioners who've actually used that model, where you would literally, that space would be held in trust, essentially, the commercial space. And then it becomes perpetually affordable. And then ownership. I mean, providing ownership is one way to, but unless the financing attached to that project, has covenants that make it permanently. So if that person sells to somebody else, it's still affordable to that person. They can actually assume the subsidies, or when you're lending, the affordable, the low interest rate loans. You're going to just get one turn on those units in a sales model, unless you basically have some other covenants attached to your primary and initial investment.
Can I just ask that a little differently?
Yes.
That was a great response, but I'm wondering, and maybe this is also a question for Allison, if we're at all looking at, so we're looking at the demographics of who owns the businesses, are we also looking at the demographics of who the business would ultimately serve, or who we're targeting? You talked about making sure that people of different backgrounds still feel comfortable shopping in those neighborhoods. When I look at a lot of the neighborhoods that have been revitalized, I don't think that's the case, right? So a lot of the East Side neighborhoods, I think the businesses that are there that are selling $250 jeans, are catering to a certain demographic. So I'm wondering if there is any attention to who these businesses are sort of targeting, what the affordability of the products or the services that they provide are, that sort of thing.
And if I could add on, I mean, that's precisely the line of inquiry I wanted to address, stated a little differently, which is for the three of you, what does success look like, right? What does that look like? Paint that picture, because I imagine those are the kinds of visioning conversations that I would hope go on at oversight committee meetings, at the committee meetings for the tenanting process, et cetera, that you're painting a picture for the neighborhood, saying, okay, 10 years from now, what is this going to look like, right? And how does this serve the equity goals? How does this serve the neighborhoods that these developments are in?
Well, do you want to make? I'm sorry, I have a lot to say about these things. This is really where I spend my time and energy and my passion. So there is I'll give you an example, a recent example. I think to your question, Francesca, really, if you put faces that look like us in buildings, if you diversify the faces in those businesses, it's instantly more welcoming. If people know that there's a Black business owner, for example, Sweet Jams is coming into Vanport Square. They're gonna lease the Horn of Africa space. Yes, and the grand opening is tomorrow night. You're all invited. I'm sure that Frank would love to have you there, but essentially, he's doing a fundraiser for his hometown in Texas that was severely damaged by Harvey. Another good example is BICEP, which is Black Investment Corporation for Economic Progress, which is a group of us that are working on creating commercial place in Northeast Portland, and trying to find those kind of spaces that we anchor down through specific developments and through partnerships with other developers who are willing to do what's been done in Lentz, to dedicate a certain amount of space. We have a building where we've placed a Black owner in that building, and she, some of you may know her, Cole Reed. She runs Greenhouse. She also runs NXT co-working spaces, but her gallery is at the corner of Williams and where she's in the building, which is the old Albina Women's League building on the corner of Williams and Killingsworth. And she's actually on the Killingsworth side of that building on the in space furthest east. Cole is an ambassador for the community. She talks to people that go by. She invites people in. She's a proactive owner. She's not uncomfortable there. She's not standing and waiting for people. And the change on that corner, because you need to recruit more people like that who really have a passion to put their foot down and to be part of a community and to be present in that business community. So Cole has already, got people to hire a Black assistant manager in one of the businesses across the street. She's organized the other businesses in this building. She's actually organized an outdoor fair with makers of color that was run in July. So I think we need to be looking to have a few of those kind of people that we seed into these communities, in some of these spaces, because those people will help us drive a new message about you're welcome. This is a place for everybody. And it's amazing because people come in there. I mean, I see people, I go and talk with Cole every once in a while, and Black people who would never have walked into any of those spaces, would never walk into any of the spaces on the other businesses, they walk in there and talk to her. She buys from the local guys who are junking because her business is about building furniture from reused things. And so she's created relationships in that community that are different. And I think we need some of that going on with our businesses of color.
I think, though, that speaks to the point. The question is how, really, if I would say it in a different way, the real subtext here is how do you have a business in a community that is supported? And that business being supported is contingent upon the folks in that particular community seeing it as valuable, viable, and important. So the real question is, how do you assess for that? Now, you've given two really good examples. Sweet Jam is a brunch place. I don't care who you are. Everybody likes brunch. So you're going to go get brunch. I think everyone in Portland, given the culture that it is, can appreciate art, right? And this whole idea of being sustainable. So if you're taking anything and recycling and reusing it, people are going to come patronize your business, if there's some sort of social mission. So in that particular point, I think what the real question is being asked is how do you match the goals that we've identified, which is women, minority-owned, businesses, and, and LGBTQ community. How do you match those goals with ensuring a success in any particular neighborhood? Now, we've heard about Alberta Commons. We've had a really good advisory panel, and maybe that's the way. The way is to have an advisory board for every one of these particular developments so that you are getting real-time information on, yes, the bagel shop, we've got too many bagel shops, so we're not interested in another bagel shop, or I visited Batter this weekend. It was really good. And it's always really full. But when I start talking to the folks there, they're like, we love this place because you can come and my kids can get pancakes at noon on a Sunday. So it's this particular information that I think is really important, and how you get that inventory is by having some sort of formal human connection that can give you that information. I don't think that's something you can predict. And also widening our understanding of what diversity and inclusion is. So diversity, I think people automatically go to race, but there are multiple subpopulations and subcultures that have to be taken into consideration. So I just wanted to offer my 2 cents on the matter.
Thank you for your help.
And a comment on success.
Yeah, I think that's precisely the point I wanted, and referencing your earlier comment also around how do you codify this, right? How do you translate this into a set of rules insofar as you can, or processes that we can follow and learn from as we go along. But yeah, I mean, this is exactly, I think, what we were getting at, is that at the end of the day, we need to be very open and sensitive to the voices that are represented in the neighborhoods, and as inclusive even within those neighborhoods, right?
Absolutely.
Because, some voices speak louder than others, right? But we want to make sure that we're listening to that, to all of that, and we're listening to it through a series of different filters, right, in this position when we meet, right? And so we want to be sure that the process for listening is transparent, that information is well recorded, and so that when it's reported to us, we can take a look and go, okay, yeah, I hear that, right? So that's really the substance that I want to get at, right? Understanding clearly the process, understanding the lessons we're learning from these different projects as pilots, right? We're learning all together, but then making sure that further investments are guided by the voices that really count, those in the neighborhood.
And I think if you curate these through some kind of a vetting process of those businesses, you're with people who are from those neighborhoods, that that you're going to get better results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where we're finding some of our best tenants are from word of mouth. It's not from the brokerage community, it's from the farmer's market and the home-based business that's just ready to start. And those are people that are coming from the neighborhood. They've already proven that they've got a business model that works, and they're already in the neighborhood. So those are like the perfect fit for the program, at least in Lentz.
And I'll just add, for as what does success look like, we really, thinking about who benefits. And so, it might be, in some cases, easier for, a national credit tenant to go into one of these spaces, make that'd be less headache on for Robert. But when you broaden that decision making and have purposeful criteria, then you have someone around the table who's like, yeah, bubble waffles, that's a great idea. People love bubble waffles. I'm like, when you have a smaller group making that decision, you're not going to get as much input and diversity around the table. And then also, thinking about your question about gentrification, gentrification is, we think about it as coming in waves. And so these first 10 years, especially in a place like Lentz, place like Northeast, getting businesses established, local businesses, minority business, women-owned businesses established in those first 10 years is going to be impactful, because it's not, the difference between permanently affordable and then being able to exist in the markets, but it's kind of filling that gap of that first wave of gentrification.
I'd have one last comment, which is, I know it adds complication, but we're not trying to solve easy problems here. I think the other thing that I always think about as a small business owner myself is, how does this all translate into assets, right? Ownership over assets, whether your job, your small shop, which is thriving and, generating a healthy profit, right, is helping you pay down the mortgage on your house. Or whether you have an opportunity to own your own space, right, if you're into looking at commercial real estate. I think all of that is important to track, because at the end of the day, there's a massive asset gap that we're looking to address, right? And that's the basis for security, for wealth creation. So I think that's another thing that I would love to see tracked alongside all of these things, insofar as we can.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Well, thanks to everyone. Really fantastic program, and thanks very much for coming to testify today. Thank you.
Thank you for the
Great,
opportunity.
great discussion. Yeah. Okay, well, we're running a little behind schedule, but that was a great discussion and well worth it. Next is item 9, and that is an update on the long-term business plan. And Tony Barnes and Justin Douglas will make that presentation. So, welcome, gentlemen. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Cruz, Commissioners, Executive Director Branham. My name is Justin Douglas, Policy, Research, and Compliance Manager. I'm joined by Tony Barnes, Budget Officer. Before we get into the update on the long-term business plan today, I just wanted to acknowledge all the work that's been done behind the scenes on this over the last half year or so. Robert Smith, who's in the audience, has put a great deal of work into this on some of our outcomes. Michael Gerton. Lisa Norwood has been pivotal in creating a new theme for our presentations and how we convey information. And those are just a few of the people who have really helped move this forward, so I just wanted to acknowledge them. So today, Tony and I are going to be giving an update on the long-term business plan. Now, some of you have sat at a board meeting before and had a presentation on the long-term business plan, but none of you have seen it quite in the way that we're presenting it today. So it's a different way of talking about the business plan, so we really, and it's the first time that we're sharing it, so what we really want is to get some honest feedback from you. Does it resonate? How can it be improved? And what questions might you still have after seeing this that you think could help us? Because this is going to be something that we're increasingly sharing. And later in the presentation, I'll share with you that we have a date on Halloween with City Council to share this business plan, and we want to make sure that it's in a good place before we get there. So the framework for our presentation today is, first of all, talk about why we need a long-term business plan and why now. Before I go any further, one thing that I think maybe we'd like your feedback on is whether or not we should even be calling this a long-term business plan. That sounds kind of technocratic, and I think the way that we think about this is it's a call to action. But for the purposes of today's presentation, we're going to call it a business plan. So why do we need one?
You really want feedback then?
Yes, just after maybe the presentation.
On that particular point?
Yes, please.
I like it.
So what are the key components to the plan? What are the major issues that we're facing? And what are the next steps? So I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about the needs for why we need this business plan. So, we see reports in the newspaper about how the national and the state unemployment rates are the lowest that they've been in 15 years. But that really does not tell the story of what truly is going on across the country and in Portland. And that is that the income ladder is broken. Job growth numbers here reflect the national trend that there's basically an increasing polarization of those jobs with high incomes and those jobs with low incomes, but there's very little, if not stagnant, growth for middle income jobs. The picture in Portland is one of stark and disturbing disparities. More than 1 in 4 Portlanders who is a person of color is living in poverty. Likewise, in Multnomah County, the median wage for white workers is $50,000 per year. The median wage for a person of color is $34,000 per year. Talking about wealth, and just to explain this maybe for the people who are watching this at home, wealth takes into account not just income, but also assets. So this may be real estate or automobiles, savings accounts or stocks. And then it also balances that against one's liabilities. So these might be a mortgage, this might be a lien, this might be other debt. And these disparities are shocking. White households have more than 10 times the net worth of Hispanic and Black-headed households. These are national figures, but the same dynamics are playing out right here in Portland. Not only are these disparities evident across ethnic and income lines, but there are significant geographic disparities too. Over the last 10 to 15 years, there has basically been a hollowing out of neighborhoods of people of color from inner East Side neighborhoods. And these are the neighborhoods that are closest to the central city, and this is the largest concentration of jobs within the entire Portland metropolitan region. And with that, increasing gentrification pressures have led folks to move to more affordable neighborhoods, but these are often neighborhoods, many of which lack sufficient infrastructure, and they don't have easy access to job centers. So moving on from kind of the picture now, I want to share a couple of slides about some future trends and forecasts. Our regional government, Metro, projects significant increases in people of color in the region over the next 20 years. These are the very demographic groups that are not benefiting from economic gains in Portland's growth. I'll share some other projections with you. It's often said that Portland is a city of small businesses. Well, not only are we a city of small businesses, but the growth rate for self-employed individuals in Portland dwarfs the state and national trends. And this is, or national rates, and this is an important trend because self-employed businesses start, or self-employed people start businesses. Businesses create jobs, and business ownership is a path to wealth creation. So when we look at the projections from this and the prior slide, we have a tremendous opportunity to harness both the incredible population growth and small business entrepreneurship to create jobs and wealth for Portlanders. Now, this isn't something that's new. You all know these trends. And when the Prosper Portland Board adopted the 2015-2020 strategic plan, it acknowledges these trends. So since the strategic plan was adopted, we have initiated new programs, modified others, and are piloting innovative ways of creating great neighborhoods, growing family wage jobs, advancing opportunities for prosperity, and convening and collaborating with partners. And in fact, the three items that you saw before you today are all initiatives that we have either piloted or changed course since our strategic plan was adopted to acknowledge some of these trends. We believe that we have a proven track record in delivering on these goals, and so I'm going to show you some slides coming up that basically demonstrate what we've done over the past 5 years through Prosper Portland's work. So why do we need a long-term business plan? Through Prosper Portland's work, businesses create jobs. Businesses are optimally efficient, equitable, and competitive. Businesses are actively engaged in collaborative efforts to address community challenges and job creation throughout Portland. Through Prosper Portland's work, neighborhoods are inclusive and accessible for all. People have access to businesses and organizations that support their needs, and communities and partners can create tangible, people-centered improvements. So why do we need a long-term business plan? Well, through Prosper Portland's work, we believe that partners are aligned to address and deliver on Portland's workforce needs. Portlanders have the skills and support to access living wage jobs. And partners help communities achieve economic growth and prosperity. Through Prosper Portland's work, Portlanders have equitable access to create and grow businesses. Longtime property owners are stable and deeply rooted in their communities, and local business owners have the opportunities and tools to grow and succeed. So in spite of some of these recent accomplishments and the growing need to ensure that prosperity is widely shared among all Portlanders, we face a significant challenge in how we fund our work. So I'm going to turn it over to Tony.
Great. Thanks, Justin. To illustrate our challenge, I'm going to show the challenge here is the decline of resources necessary to pursue these goals, Prosper Portland. From this chart, we have Prosper Portland's financial forecast, which is comprised of both the operating budget and capital budget. Both resources, operating resources and capital budget resources over time will be in decline. This shows our operating budget, about $30 million per year, declining to about $7 million by 2030-31. It's made up of general fund resources, community development block grant resources, but also resources from tax increment financing to support projects implemented in urban renewal areas. The blue line represents those capital type resources, TIF resources, in the urban renewal areas, but also proceeds from land sales and from repayment of loans, declining over time. This last line, this gray line, represents our non-TIF type resources, mostly made up of general fund resources and community development block grant resources, but also interest on loans and other operating type resources. What this demonstrates over time is that the green area is above, right now, the gray line, but that's being paid for by TIF and capital type resources to support those costs. Over time, that decreases as capital resources decrease and shrinks. So there's a challenge here of declining capital resources, declining operating resources, and therefore a declining operating budget to support economic development goals. So illustrated geographically, between 2015 and 2020, TIF funds in our existing URAs, urban renewal areas, amount to about $465 million in resources, just about $200 million after we account for the housing set aside from that. That represents about 12% of the city's acreage. However, those resources, new resources being generated over this 5-year period, represents about 8% of the city, actually concentrated in River District, Lentz Town Center, Interstate, and North Macadam urban renewal areas. After 2020, between 2020 and 2022, it begins to decrease even more as urban renewal areas are retired and new resources are fewer from those districts. Here we have Lentz dropping off from the map. New resources are primarily in Interstate, North Macadam, Gateway, and River District. Then finally, between 2022 and 2025, there's just one urban renewal area left that has new resources, North Macadam. So that illustrates both over time and geographically what the challenge is from a resource perspective.
So next, Tony and I are going to talk about the key components of the business plan. And this is, the business plan actually is as simple as this, this image suggests. Basically, the resources are how we manage our current budget and assets. The uses are how we make investments. And the outcomes are how we actually articulate the impact of who benefits. And this has been a change over time, a culture change about ensuring that when we talk about the impact of our work, that we talk about people, that we talk about businesses. So I think you'll see some of that today in the presentation. So the business plan contemplates 3 main resources. Tax increment funds continue to be a significant source of funding, not only the dollars in our budget, but in our real estate and loan portfolios. So it's crucial that we optimize their value and returns and the benefits that they provide. Tony, later in the presentation, will also share some different return on investment figures and what that means for the business plan. The second thing here, you'll recall that Tony just showed the expiring urban renewal area districts, and this creates what we call boomerang revenue. So these are property tax dollars that are returned to the City of Portland General Fund after those districts expire. And then third, we'll just briefly touch on some of the potential new resources to the agency. So on that first of the 3 resource components, basically what this shows, and I'll for the commissioners that weren't here last year, in June of 2016, the Prosper Portland Board adopted an updated financial investment policy, which includes the following priorities. And basically what this shows is that we have a great deal of control over how we invest our resources, and that it's critically important to ensure that we play a long-term role in addressing Portland's economic development needs. So this is more how we internally manage our resources. Likewise, I talked about optimizing assets. In addition to managing investments, the loans, the grants, and the intergovernmental agreements, our real estate and lending team is taking a portfolio management approach to our real estate and loan assets, from using new tools to manage the portfolio to creating operating plans for each and every property that is owned by Prosper Portland. So moving on to that second key component of revenues, and this is back to the Boomerang Fund. So as Tony mentioned, as the urban renewal areas expire and outstanding debt is repaid, the tax increment generated from the overlapping taxing jurisdictions are returned to from each district. So as he alluded, based upon the City of Portland's tax rate, we assume that there will be about $380 million returned to the City of Portland in 2021 through 2035. So this is the orange line. After discounting based upon potential property tax limits like Measure 5, compression, and normal discounts, the number is probably more conservatively estimated as about 335, which is represented by the blue line. This green line here would assume that 25% of those Boomerang revenues were to come to Prosper Portland. Later in the presentation, in addition to sharing what different returns on investment mean for our funding, Tony's also going to share what that 25% and some lower assumptions about Boomerang return mean for the agency. So the third component to the resources are new resources. So currently staff are engaged in new programs and initiatives that will deliver on both strategic plan objectives, but also create a revenue stream for the agency. And the three that you see on screen here are not comprehensive. For example, Prosper Portland could play a role in managing and redeveloping other publicly owned, City of Portland-owned properties. We believe that we have the skill sets and the expertise and the experience in public-private partnerships that no other agency has. So at a very high level, these are some of the current and potential new resources. I'll turn it back to Tony, and he's going to talk to you about the uses and how we invest them.
So this chart illustrates our 5-year budget, or 5-year forecast that was recently adopted in June. That breaks down capital resources between 3 different categories: infrastructure and grants, program-related investments, and mission-related investments. Grants and infrastructure meet many policy goals, high levels of public benefit, but have no repayment associated with it. Program-related investments meet all the policy goals, established high levels of public benefit, but we anticipate little repayment, below market return on those. Mission-related investments meet many policy goals, all of our policy goals, but there's anticipated repayment, more of market return. So as you can see from the chart here, we have about 28% of the resources programmed to infrastructure and grants, 27% to mission-related investments, and 45% to program-related investments over the next 5 years. Now these categories, if they move, they can impact what's currently in the model. But it's important to note that the way it's been programmed in the budget, there's flexibility to adjust. This is mainly setting up the benchmark for how the scenarios in the model play out. This is the current 5-year forecast. Yes. So taking a little bit deeper dive, if we look at specific urban renewal areas and the breakdown of those categories within each URA, we have a bit of a different allocation when we go from URA to URA. For example, in River District, downtown waterfront, Oregon Convention Center, Central East Side, there's a higher level of mission-related type investments. These are illustrated by the Broadway Corridor, ODOT blocks, Oregon Convention Center type investments, potential Rose Quarter investments. Whereas in North Macadam, Interstate, Lentz Town Center, Gateway, we have a focus on program-related investments. So below market, higher benefit, illustrated by the action plans in Lentz and Gateway, and other districts. So now I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about 4 scenarios we've been running that implement the investments that Justin talked about, the boomerang 25% and other versions of that. So over the next 14 years, we have existing resources. This largely aligns to that operating budget I showed earlier, going from $30 million down to $7 million. Scenario A assumes Prosper Portland receives ongoing funding of 25% of the boomerang and 6% return on investment for mission-related investments. This is also combined with returns from new market tax credit type projects, as well as other returns from program-related investments that we saw in the past 2 slides. So over time, we have, on a present value basis, something that comes back to about $30 million by 2030. Scenario B lowers the mission-related investment return expectation from 6% to 3%. So projects that I mentioned, like Broadway Corridor, ODOT blocks, Oregon Convention Center projects, dropping that expectation to about 3%, but still having a 25% return from the boomerang. Scenario C decreases it further by dropping the boomerang to 12.5%, so it's cutting the boomerang in half and having a 3% mission-related investment return. Then finally, scenario D has 0 boomerang included and a 3% return on mission-related investments. So with the program-related investments of 3%, that's basically all those budgeted investments around 3% on average. So what might these scenarios yield for future outcomes for Portland? In the modeling that we did over the last couple of months, we extrapolated the existing and prior outcomes based on level of funding, potential staffing levels, activities being funded, and we can begin to estimate what the potential impact could be of each scenario. So we've looked at the funding level, looked at inputs, and based on current ratios of what those outcomes, what that yields, we've been extrapolating over 14 years what that might create. So in scenario A, rolling up many different programs like business lending programs, small business technical assistance, and E-zone type programs, jobs created over 13,000 from the estimate. Community capacity, leveraged dollars, $33.8 million over 14 years, over $450,000 in capacity hours, volunteer hours, and workforce participants of color, over 10,000, and businesses of color, over 3,000. So this is an estimate based on current ratios and current program performance. Scenario B, with a lower return, brings those numbers down slightly. And depending on the outcome, it might be 70 to 85% of what scenario A is. And of course, how we program those funds, how those priorities are reset over 14 years could yield different outcomes across the different categories. Scenario C, excuse me, at 12.5% boomerang brings those numbers down more, closer to 60% to 80%, depending on the outcome. And finally, scenario D, with no boomerang fund in the forecast and a 3% return on mission-related investments, brings the numbers down from about 60%, I'm sorry, 50% or 40% to 75%. So a significant decrease here. But still, that scenario D line is above what the status quo existing resources would yield here.
Have we modeled a 12.5% boomerang and a 6% return?
No, but we it would come out probably close to a scenario B.
B, yeah.
And we can
figured.
run those numbers and show you that. Where we're seeing is different scenarios yield different results. There's different combinations at different levels, the pull, but both on the inputs and, of course, how we do the programming on the outputs.
So our next steps, again, this is the first time we're unveiling this, this way of talking about the business plan, or whatever we wind up calling it. We will be engaging staff in an interactive session on Monday, and then are going to be sharing this with some folks who were involved a couple of years ago on what was known as the Financial Sustainability Committee, and they were kind of the folks who we first worked with to help us tackle this. We do have a board meeting in October, on October 25th. We could certainly bring this back to you all and share what's changed and what's been updated, and maybe respond to some of the feedback that you might have today. I mentioned the City Council work session on October 31st. I think we'll work with Chair Cruz to get that on his schedule, and obviously that's a milestone for us in sharing this with Council, and this would contemplate that we would bring a business plan back to codify this with the board's action in November 8th. Before I close, we really believe that with your leadership, with City Council support, with sound investment principles, with creative funding solutions, and by always considering who benefits, that we feel that we can collectively harness the incredible growth in our city to ensure that there's widely shared prosperity, and hopefully this presentation tries to get that point across to you. So happy to entertain questions, constructive, critical feedback, or any other things you'd like to share.
All right. Comments?
Yeah, to me, this is a long-term financial plan. So a business plan is business conjures all kinds of other things, but this is about financing. That's what I would call it.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I thought it should include maybe financial sustainability plan. The word sustainability should be somewhere in the, so maybe your suggestion in adding sustainability to it. That's what I had written down at the beginning.
Nope. Okay.
Can I just poke a little further? I mean, one of the things I mentioned that we've kind of been going through this culture shift and ensuring that when we talk about the loans and the grants and the development agreements, that those are really just a means to an end, and what's important are the people that benefit from the work that we do. But I'm still not sure, did you get that flavor today? Was this too heavy on resources and dollars and too light on people and impact? I'm seeing you nod, Commissioner Gambetti.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking. And I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Like, is this your roadshow, and so you want to fine tune it to make sure? It kind of depends on who your audience is, I guess, obviously, right? So, but no, I think, I mean, you kind of look at the questions, but you do lose a little bit of that, that personal touch piece. You obviously want to be tight with it, your overall presentation, not be too lengthy, but I think you do lose it a little bit.
I think you can add it by potentially having a brief video presentation of some of the participants. They don't physically have to be there, take away from their ability to be at work, but to have them do a short video to basically, as you have here, to be able to personally give their testimonials of how this has impacted their lives, and how it's consistent with, I think, the city's larger goals as well.
Right.
Maybe that's a way to do it. But I do think that there's value in being able to demonstrate those scenarios, and trying to convince the city commissioners why continuing to invest in the city's economic and community development arm is important in the long run. So, and that takes being able to demonstrate the effectiveness both quantitatively and qualitatively.
To second that,
oh,
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, to second that point, I think we had this discussion in the office too at the briefing, which is that, there is no other higher profile organization within the public sector here, and specifically a city organ that focuses on equity the way that Prosper Portland is now focusing on equity, right? And I think that point needs to be reiterated kind of ad nauseum in a way, because there is a rebranding, right, that's going on. And I think the idea of making it clear that this is the organization that is going to help ensure that all the other organizations that coordinate at the city level achieve the equity goals, right, that we all are looking for. That precisely, to Alicia's point, that's the message that we need to come through with. Because the presentation, I agree with Francesca, is that this is a, am I supposed to use the commissioner title instead? Personal, okay. But I think her point is that this comes across very much as an internal presentation, makes a ton of sense, it's great information, it's very well presented, but for a public audience, for consumption by the public, and also as a vehicle to help convince people, the equity goals need to be right up front.
So with your, you had so I was doodling here, you had your little four, it's sort of like a diamond shape with the circles and the actual like goals, that perhaps visually you could make one of those circles bigger. As you're sort of, I mean, visually, right? I also don't want to underestimate the intelligence of the public, because I do know that there are a number of people who want to know that information and feel like we've been short on giving them that information. So I think that you're going to have to wrestle with the balance of more visuals, maybe less words, but concise, to the point. But I do think that there's not to disagree, but I think there is a healthy appreciation for that information, especially in Portland at this time and under these current conditions. And I'll leave it at that.
And I think you set the tone really well at the beginning in terms of what the general trends are with shifting the economic disparities, and all of that was really good. I wouldn't assume that people know that, and I would highlight the sense of urgency really with that, and how absolutely critical the work that we're doing to try and rectify that situation is. So
I would agree with all the comments that have been made. I think they're really insightful and thoughtful comments. I thought the numbers actually were very well presented, though, and I think they're easy to understand. I think they get the message across, but I do think maybe a little more humanization here and there might be helpful. The other thing is, there's several different scenarios obviously offered up. I don't know if this is the appropriate spot in the process to make an ask or not. Like what do we think is the best approach, and what do we think would do the most good for the community? And maybe, I don't know if now is the time in this process to make that ask, or if we lay out the scenarios and let them stew over it and then come back later and make the ask. Politically, I'm not sure where that comes out, but we could consider maybe doing that. Other comments?
I'm wondering if, again, we need to spell out a little bit more clearly, just because it's sort of an embedded assumption in all of our work here, the connection between economic development, increase in assets, and decreasing inequality, right? Just so it's just very clear, right? That's the thesis, right? And make sure that those elements, follow in sequence one after the other, however that's done.
I just thought about, that's a really good visual, what you just described, and it probably could just be in a box on every single slide, as sort of like a prompt and a cue, that's sort of like the central theme, and it's sort of running like almost like the Prosper Portland sign on each. You just have that little box on each slide and then summarize. But I think that's a great visual. I just got excited about that.
I like it. That's a great idea. I mean, and ultimately that is the point. It's putting in their hands saying, well, if you want increasing inequality, then sure, go ahead and pull all the boomerang funds, right? But if you, right, I mean, that's kind of the implication. It has to be. So.
Okay.
Really
Great.
appreciate the candid feedback. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very, very much. It was a really good presentation. Thank you.
Can I just mention, Justin gave his appreciation at the beginning, but there's been a lot of work that's gone into this, so I just would like to offer my own appreciation for the team. We have weekly meetings on this. There's a lot of thought, so I'd like to particularly recognize Justin and Tony for their hard work. Faye for continuing to move on this, Lisa Abwaf, and Myra, and then all the other folks who have put this forward. Yeah, Robert and Michael, just been a really significant lift, so appreciate all of their work. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you.
Thanks very much. Okay, thanks for coming. Great. Well, I think that wraps up our meeting. So the September 13th, 2017 Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting is now adjourned.